feel like singing a song. Can you all hear me? I usually don't use mics because I'm so loud normally. And I had a plan coming in here. I was like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to do it in order. I'm going to do this. And I'm like, not going to do it at all. So, yeah, I own a catering company here in Calgary. I've owned it for 8 years. I employ 30 people now. Proud to say it's all me. It's all my decisions, all my own makings. I was a fine dining chef before that. And I never thought I would own a catering company because I was too pretentious to think so otherwise. But it was my goal at 29 or before I was 30 to own my own business. So that's what I did. And where did I get that drive from? I don't know. Well, I thought about it today, and actually my mom. My mom is, and I hope I don't cry, oh my God, every time I talk about her. My mom is a self-made businesswoman, over 30 years, her own business. Single mom, 3 kids, abusive relationship, mentally, physically. Left him when I was 4, my sister was 2. My brother was like older. And amazing woman, the dragon lady we call her. Completely feisty, completely self-driven, persistent, great values, integrity. And I always kind of rebelled against her. Never listened to her. Thought she totally ruined the mommy-daddy thing. And now that I'm older and I own my business and I'm exactly like her. She'd love to hear that. Exactly like her, just as feisty as her, and will speak up at any time. And I realize that now as she's getting older. But very persistent woman. She's 68 now, 4-time cancer survivor again, and still living with it, I think. Well, now living with it. But absolutely amazing woman. And I thank her for everything. It wasn't Top Chef that made me who I am. It's not that at all. And I don't think I would still be cooking if I didn't have her integrity or values or all the things that I rebelled against. So how did I get into cooking? Everyone asks me. I love to eat. That's number one thing. I think you have to love to eat to cook. I've always cooked from a very young age. My mom's an excellent cook, so that's probably what it was. I was probably sitting on the floor in the kitchen at all times reading Joy of Cooking. That was my first cookbook. I burned down her kitchen twice. I was 8 and 13, I think. Yeah, it was a roast. I threw water on it. But she's very proud that she'd actually be mad that I didn't invite her to this. But she was probably the reason why I cooked. My dad actually became a French pastry chef too as well. I kept in contact with him. He was talented at everything. I'm glad I got some of those traits from him. And I started working with her actually. She owns a travel agency in Richmond, BC. That's where I'm from. She's Shanghainese, my dad's Macanese. Portuguese Chinese, if you haven't heard of that. I'm born and raised from Richmond, BC, but I'm living in Calgary and I've been here 12 years. But she owns her business there and I was a travel agent. And I was really young and defiant. Actually, I had a job at KFC too. I've always had a lot of jobs. I love fried chicken, by the way. And I was working from 14. I got a job. She's like, no, go to school. She was very traditional Chinese. She's like, get an education, become a lawyer, doctor. And if you're not going to do that, come run my business. So I followed suit and I traveled a lot. And back then when they gave travel agents anything, because there wasn't internet. So there wasn't nothing online. And I worked with her as an admin assist. I do secretarial jobs, and I became a travel agent, and I went around and I made group tours. I did all that before 17. So she really taught me the values of like discipline and attention to detail, and all things that I refused and rebelled against her for. I also really ran with a bad crew of friends and peers. I never surrounded myself with anything that was normal. And I got into substance abuse addiction for 2 years, and then I got stabbed at 17. I was like, all my friends are, I think half, well, they're not my friends, but half the people at that time are either not alive or drug addicts, so I'm kind of lucky. But that's because I found cooking. So at 17, once I wanted to kick the addiction, I went to the family doctor and I said, please don't tell Mom, because he's the guy who delivered me. And I said, please don't tell Mom, and he told her everything. Please don't tell her, please don't tell her. Please do not tell her that I have this really bad substance abuse problem. I'm not going to say what it is because she wouldn't want me to tell you, but he told me that I needed to get obviously off of them right away. And I had to go on antidepressants for a year. And in that meantime, I did a lot of self-discovery. And I went, my mom did not like this, but I went into her office and I said, I quit. She didn't, I don't know if she knew. She's kind of like that secret Chinese mom that always knew everything but never said anything. And kind of let you figure it out on your own, right? And she's still that way. But you know she knows. So she just let you be. And so I went and I quit and she goes, why? And I go, I want to become a chef. And she goes, oh, you're crazy. She's like, I'm not helping you with that. You need to go back to university, because I was only like 18. You need to go back to university, you need to get a proper education, you need to start going to school, because I dropped out many times. I was never at school. I always had good grades, but never at school. She thought I was brilliant. I think I'm pretty smart now, but before I didn't think that. And I say quit. She goes, I was the only child that probably would have taken over the business. So that was like lost hope for her. I think her heart sunk a little bit. Go become a lawyer or doctor. I'm like, no, Mom, I'm gonna become a cook. She's like, no, why? I'm like, because I like cooking. She says, this is not a career for a woman. Fine, I'm not helping you with that. I'll pay on my own, Mom. So I paid on my own. I went to school. It was a really quick French culinary school. It was private at the time, probably one of the best in the country in my opinion. I only went to school for 5 months. Then they threw me into the industry. And I think that's really how I learned very quickly. I worked at a stadium GM place, which is now Rogers Arena in Vancouver. And my teachers really liked me, I guess, and said, we have an opportunity for you to move to Paris, France. And I'm like, okay. 1998 World Cup. I had no idea what World Cup was, by the way. Like sports, soccer, I was like football, whatever. Moved to the heart of Paris, lived in the Bastille region. When I got the contract before I flew away, because I had a long-time boyfriend who eventually I married. From 17, I was dating him until 34, I think. But I said, I'm leaving. You go figure out whatever you want to do, but I'm going. I was always very determined. And I went there on $150 a month. They paid me. I worked 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day. I lived there, though. They paid for my living. So room and board, what else do you need? And by law in France, you're allowed 2 glasses of wine if you work in the food industry. So I was good. I didn't know that. I was like 19, right? I'm like, and I didn't even know if there were any laws because it wasn't legal to pay me $150 a month. But it was Paris, France. So I'm like, okay, I'll do this. And I did it for almost a year. Came back, worked in Vancouver, worked at an Italian restaurant. Then again, went through some troubles with my long-term relationship. I'm like, I gotta get out of here again. Always running. Ran and moved to Australia, Sydney, worked there, naval base, Thai takeout, 5,000 person convention center. Did all that. Then moved to Hong Kong, tried to get a job there. Tough. The hours are even more insane there. You work like 20 hours a day, 22. There's no hours in your contract. And then I eventually moved back to Vancouver and worked with one of the best chefs because I begged him for years. Every time I go home to visit, I'd be like, please hire me. He's like, no, I'm not gonna have any women here. David Hawksworth. He owns West Restaurant, or at the time was West Restaurant. Best restaurant. He worked with Gordon Ramsay, Marco Pierre White, and I chased him. I always chose where I worked. And I chased him, I said, I gotta work here now. If I'm gonna settle back in Vancouver, try and make a go of my relationship again, and then you gotta hire me. He goes, no, wouldn't even look at me. I'm like, but you need me. Eventually I got it in. I knew someone, the sous chef, he was a he was a sous chef, he was like my best friend's new boyfriend. So he got me in. I was the first girl hired there. I loved every minute of it. It was total hell. I got paid nothing. I worked same hours, 14, got paid for 8. But I sure did learn a lot. And I loved the job, if I could get paid a little bit more. But I stayed for a whole year. I had to work 3 months free, by the way, to get that job. But I never looked at it that way. Like, people always go, oh, that's just not right. But I never looked at it that way. It's my education. It's what I do. And it was free education. I only went to school for 5 months. So it was like easy for me. That was always my logic. And I think the new generation will discover that they'll drop out of cooking quite quickly because they always think they're not getting paid for their hours. But it's like free education. These chefs who've worked with like Michelin star, if you've ever heard that, the best chefs in the world teaching you how to cook, like that is a pretty amazing thing. So I was always determined to do so. And I actually relay that kind of motto to my team as well. You can learn from me and I can learn from you. And so I worked at West with David Hawksworth. He hired me, he loved me. And then I moved here. I made a go of like my relationship again and moved to Calgary and worked with Michael Noble at Catch, which was amazing. Best job I ever had. Best team I've ever worked with. Eventually sous chef there and then opening chef at Mercato. And after Mercato, I was like, that's it. I was 28 and I'm like, that's it. I can't give these hours after this much cooking for this much free. I got to figure this out. And I bought the catering company. Well, I actually left Mercato, went to business school, like a small business school. And then clients started calling me from Mercato. What are you doing? You want to come over and cook? I'm like, okay. And then it just became a business. It's so bizarre. But it's much bigger than I thought it would ever be. It was hard. I ended up becoming divorced 3 years ago. But probably because I was so committed to the career thing. And in retrospect, like, we just were young. We were 17 to 34, but like, what did we know, right? But Nicole Gourmet is thriving, and then I did Top Chef. And so, why did I do Top Chef? A bucket list. And that's all I thought it would be. I'm like, it'll be fun. I'm gonna beat these boys. I was like completely on target with it. I did really well on the show. I'm very proud of what I did on the show. I was true to myself with all the things that Mom taught me, my integrity, etc. And it's been an amazing experience. It's over. It's TV. Everyone's so unrealistic about it. It is TV. It's reality TV. Real cooking shows are Julia Child and Jacques Pepin. And I think that should come back, in my opinion. But reality TV, I don't even have cable. I don't watch much TV at all. It's funny that I did the show. But I did really well. I did 5th out of 16. And I did gain a lot of respect from the guys. And that's always the way I've functioned. I believe in supporting women, absolutely. But in my world, and I know in a lot of other worlds, you must act as equal to be treated as equal. And that's with integrity and grace and being humble and humanity and care and building relationships. And that's, for me, regardless of any gender or orientation or anything that happens. That's just the way I roll my life. That's the way my mom taught me. And as well, I've had a lot of great mentors, but mom's number one. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor. Thanks.